Hello, you rates. I thought I would make a little video to make things a little bit more normal as they can be when I'm involved. So I thought I'd try and make things a little bit more normal. And I thought I'd just very quickly make a sort of short video, which will help you with this week's tasks to remind you of what VAMPS is. So VAMPS is something that we touched on briefly once when we were in the classroom, but obviously it's something we would have been working a lot harder on this term. So you've got an explanation in your Digital London Through the Pages booklet, which I hopefully am attaching every week as we go through. But if not, I'm going to go through it now. So VAMPS is short for the following 5 terms. You've got voice, audience, mood, purpose, and structure. So I'm just going to go through each of those and sort of explain what we use it for. But I'll start by explaining what we use it for. So it's a way of breaking down a document. So if you have a piece of nonfiction text, you think, right, well, how do I start analyzing this? And if you go through VAMPS and you work through it methodically, you kind of get a picture of every angle of that document that you might need to look at. Every detail of that document sort of comes out when you go through VAMPS. And I'll be honest with you, I'm always surprised when I use it at how much you can discover. And you don't actually need to know too much more than what is in front of you. So we'll start with voice. So let's take, for example, a press briefing from Donald Trump. So Donald Trump is the person who's delivering it. So when we write voice, do we just write Donald Trump? No, we don't just write Donald Trump. We think, who really is he? So beyond his name, there's other aspects to him as a person. For starters, he's the president of the United States. This is a very big deal. This obviously has a massive impact on how he speaks to people, the kind of places that he speaks, the kind of things that he will say, the kind of things that he won't say. What else can we learn about Donald Trump? Well, he's a billionaire. He's got masses and masses of wealth. That makes a difference as well to the way that he kind of interacts with other people, the opinions that he holds, and the sort of things that he will or won't say. I also think it's important to note, that he comes from New York. That's a big deal. If you think about the States, it's a massive place and there's lots of towns in the middle of nowhere. But New York is kind of, although it's not the capital, it's the sort of cultural and probably business epicenter of the entire of North America, I would imagine. So I think that that's a big deal. And also in a country with as powerful as a sort of and complicated a relationship with race that the States has, it is important to note that he is white. He is white. He's following a president who was not white. So there's something in that as well. And these are all the sort of things you might look at. Beyond that, you'd also say, his father was also a millionaire. That makes a difference. He's not a self-made millionaire. He's someone who's inherited money and used that money to create more business. So these are the kind of things that we would look at when we look at voice. So when we look at audience, let's take, for example, a blog, a vlog, if you will, a video for a YouTuber. So I don't really watch YouTubers. You do because you're young and I'm old now that I'm 71. Who is the audience? Who are the people that YouTuber has made that for? Well, they've not made it for people like me. I'm very old. They've made it for young people. So their language might be more informal. It might be that they're touching on more kind of cutting edge things. They're touching on more kind of popular culture than they might be touching on current affairs. And the current affairs that they do talk about, they're going to be talking about in a very specific way because they're going to be thinking about what young people are interested in, what younger people are looking for. And also it's the fact that they're on the internet. So that's different. That the audience are people that are using the internet. Their audience is not people who aren't. Moving on to mood. Now, mood, for example, if there was an article about football, say like a football match report in a local newspaper, and the football team had played appallingly over the weekend, the mood is going to be a very particular one. It's sort of the feelings that the writer is making known in the article itself. Is it grumpy? Is it ecstatic? Is it elated? Is it devastated? Is the mood frustrated? Is the mood livid? Is the mood relaxed? Is the mood not bothered? There are so many different words that you can use to describe a mood, and also that it can be many things at once. I think we're all experiencing that in the current climate, that we can feel lots of different things all at the same time. So moving on to purpose. In some ways, purpose is the simplest one, because it's sort of the shortest to kind of quantify, but sometimes the purpose is actually the hardest thing to spot. So, for example, if I was going to write a letter to Taylor Swift, telling her that it was time for her to stop making music because it was making my life very difficult, very complicated, and I can't stand her, but which you know that. I think what's interesting, actually, is that the purpose of that is more than one thing. The purpose of me writing a letter to Taylor Swift is not just so that Taylor Swift will stop making music, which would frankly improve everybody's lives. But also, beyond Taylor Swift stopping music, it's actually part of the purpose, whether I, the author, know it or not. Part of the purpose is for me to relieve some of my stress, for me to get rid of some of my anger. It's what we call a cathartic experience, me writing that letter. So that's a sort of another purpose to a document that might not actually be necessarily something that the author of the document themselves picks up on. Finally, moving on to structure. So structure is pretty much sort of like it's quite difficult sometimes to look at a document and go, well, I don't know what the structure of that is. So the place that I always recommend that we start is simply by going through what's it talking about when. Where does it start talking about? What does it talk about in the middle? What does it talk about at the end? You can break that down further if you like, but I always think, sort of a good example of this would be something like a letter of complaint. So if I was going to sort of structure a letter of complaint, I would start by a kind of overall summary of what my complaint is. I'm writing to complain about the treatment that I received while I was on the train last week using your service. So beginning with a summary, that's the structure. Then I might suddenly follow the narrative of the event itself. We were sitting on the 1042 to London Waterloo, where a conductor of your service came over to me and asked to see my ticket in the usual manner, and then told me that I wasn't allowed to have a rhinoceros on the train after all. This caused me great personal strain. So that kind of thing. Sort of like, where does it talk about? And finally, what's the end of the letter of complaint? Is it the demand for money back? Is it the demand that the rhinoceros receive some sort of free counselling? I don't know. But that's how I would look at structure. So overall, that's what we're looking at in terms of VAMPS. We're looking voice, audience, mood, purpose, and structure, and thinking about them in the way that I've said. And that's the best way to approach any document, really, because then you've kind of broken down all those different angles of it. If you've got any questions about that at all, please do put them in the Google Classroom stream. I don't want you sitting at home thinking, oh, I don't understand this, and not feeling like you can contact me. You absolutely can. So please do, because the more you contact me, the less time I have to spend speaking to Mr. Ellsby. Okay, thank you very much.